Hi there and welcome to the Databits channel. For those of you who remember having a Mickey Mouse phonograph record player when you were a child, I have a demonstration here for you. I wish I could play you a kid's record, but unfortunately they are all copyrighted and the copyright police will arrest me. So I'm going to play an advertisement record. But the point is, you're going to be able to hear sound out of this unit which you probably have not heard in many, many years. So to demonstrate, I will need to open the lid of the record player here. And up in the top of the lid is the stylus and arm. I'm going to set it there. And then all I have to do is close the lid and the unit will begin to play automatically.
Here is news about a dramatic new advance that helps make your home self-cleaning. What would you think if I told you that you would never have to dust again? Or that your draperies would require expensive dry cleaning far less frequently? Or that you would never have to wash walls again? Of course, these household chores can never be entirely done away with, but they can now be reduced so greatly that you can save hours of drudgery and many, many dollars, and your furnishings will retain their original beauty much longer. What can do all this for you? It's the new Honeywell Whole House Electronic Air Cleaner, built especially for homes with forced air systems. The Honeywell Electronic Air Cleaner is installed right in the ductwork of your heating or cooling system and removes up to 95% of dirt, smoke, and grease particles from the air circulating through the ducts, as measured by the National Bureau of Standards Dust Spot Method.
I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration of the Mickey Mouse record player, for those who had one. For those of us who didn't have one, I'm going to talk about how I was able to get this thing re-engineered to actually work and play records again. And re-engineering was extremely necessary because of the original design of this unit was absolutely garbage. And it is just insane that this actually worked at one time. So we're looking at like a motor box here with a roller. And this particular unit would sit under the turntable. And this particular roller right here was touching the bottom side of the turntable. So as the turntable spun, it would spin by this motor here, which has some kind of a weighted governor type thing on it. And then this rubber piece here. To change the speed of the unit, there was a lever on the outside of the phonograph that you could turn left and right. And what it would do is it would ride this motor box on a set of rails underneath. If you move the unit in by using the lever, the unit would play slower and you could move it out to the outside and it would play faster. This was absolutely terrible. Now look at this thing up close. If you have one of these particular record players, this is what the inside roller potentially could look like. Now this one may have just been exposed to extreme heat, but in any case, the rubberiness of this roller, I mean, this thing is made out of concrete now. I mean, there's no rubberiness to this at all. This is just the top parts of the rails that I removed so that I could put something new inside of there. So again, this is how it used to work. It's very likely it doesn't work if you have one of those. Now let's see how we made it work. So what you were looking at here is a re-engineered Mickey Mouse phonograph. On the side of the unit here, if I turn it around, this is on the front right side, you'll see that slot that the regulator, speed regulator lever stuck out through so that you could easily turn it up and down. Right here is your on-off switch and volume control. Now on the inside of the unit, there was a lever that came down from the top. You'll see that right here. And this pushed on a button, and then that button pushed on a switch on the inside, which turned on or off the motor on the inside and the amplifier. Now I've replaced the stylus on this unit, so it has a brand new stylus installed. But its sound system really isn't that bad for something that was made so cheaply. It's just the motor system on this that was absolutely horrid. Let's remove this record and you can see a little bit of what's going on here. So originally, as I described a minute ago, the motor was driving this turntable from the underside, but I've turned it into a belt-driven turntable. Now what I had to do was install a completely separate motor system with speed regulator, and I stole it, removed it from one of these record players. Let's pull up the picture of that now so you can see. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with those record players, but in order for me to put something new in here, I had to carve out this part of the plastic right here on this side. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see. So this had to be carved out so that a motor could stick out from the top, and then there was a belt going around the perimeter of the turntable. Now because this little motor spindle here sticks up so high, I had to put some extra felt pieces on there to lift the record up higher than this particular motor spindle. As far as controls go, there is a new control on the front of this unit. It is a switch that you see here, and this switch activates the motor. So if I flip that on, you'll see that the turntable begins to spin. Now it is only set up to do 33 1/3. I couldn't get the speed to work exactly perfect with 45 RPM records. However, because of that speed regulator that was originally included, you could pull this little piece up here and you could put on a 45 record. But the sound quality must have been hideous. I can't imagine the amount of wow and flutter this thing had back in its original heyday. I can take the belt off of the little spindle here and remove the turntable, and you'll see inside is the motor that was pulled out of that record player, that Crosley that you saw in that picture. And then your turntable sits right here on this spindle. This is the bottom of the turntable. And it even has like a texture to it, I guess to help grip with that really nasty roller that was underneath there. But as you can see, I have taken not only the motor and spindle out of that Crosley, but I've also used the belt that was inside that Crosley as well to go around the perimeter of this turntable. Now let's go ahead and we'll remove some screws so that you can see what's happening on the underside and how I did that part, how it's wired in. The unit originally operated on a couple of batteries underneath here in this compartment, and whoever had it used a soldering iron to put a couple of little notches in there so this would stay on. And that was kind of smart because those helped to kind of grip those latches here and keep that particular cover in place. But as you can see here, we have 2D batteries installed. The only thing those are doing now is operating the amplifier. And I've installed some felt pads on the bottom here to protect the furniture that this particular turntable happens to be sitting on. I've removed the screws that's holding this plate in place. I'm going to go ahead and lift that off of there for you. And here's what we have inside. We have a 9-volt battery. We have the original speed controller that went with the motor that came out of that Crosley. And there's that motor, and I have it bracketed on with some makeshift kind of connectors there with the original screws and rubber grommets that are on top of the motor. Here is the original sound system here, the original amplifier. I did not have to replace any caps in it. It was pretty well good to go. Now, one of the things I noticed is when I first turned it on with the motor in there, the original motor, there was some static and noise coming through the audio system from that motor. So it obviously didn't have like any kind of a filter capacitor or something on it to prevent that sort of thing from happening. But your original switch was right here, and I've taken that off and just soldered a wire directly to that tab right there. You can see the original amplifier wiring going here. So this is your input from the tone arm and your output to the speaker that is right here under the lid. And there's our happy Mickey Mouse with his 45 record right there. So 9 volts seems to be a good amount of voltage for it, and it has lasted. That little 9 volt is still working throughout this experimentation process. Now this is the original on-off switch, power switch for the old record player from Crosley, and then this is the original switch that did 78, 33, and 45, and then there is a potentiometer right here to fine-tune those particular speeds. But again, 33 1/3 works at the 45 RPM setting because of the differences in the size of the turntable. This one is obviously much bigger than the, well, where it connects with this belt is much bigger than the original turntable that came off that Crosley. I've also installed a switch underneath here. You can see that right there. So that is my power switch for my motor. Now you can see the motor spinning right there. So I could even run this without having to put that particular plate on. All I need to do is put the turntable on here and then wrap my belt around the motor spindle, and then I can turn this on and watch it spin. So I was able to test it in its usage, like this part right here. Just use it like this until I was able to figure out how to get that red piece back on and cut a hole in it. And I'll show you what that looks like here. There's my amazing drilling and cutting there. Not the most pretty thing in the world, but it took a couple of tries to get to the point where that belt was out of the way of the plastic. So again, with my switch, I can turn the motor on and off. I can change the speed under here if I wanted to, but again, 33 was the only happy place we could stay at. And then again, my amplifier, turn on and off here. And I, of course, have to remember to turn that off or it will run the batteries down. So it might be a good idea to install like an LED light or something, maybe along the front right here, so that indicates that the power is still on to the amplifier. But again, I can take my record and I can put it on here and loosen up the tone arm. Flip this switch, flip this switch, and off we go. Once again, playing a record. Now, once you lift the lid, the tone arm goes right back to where it's supposed to. So it not only lifts it up because you're lifting the lid, but it also gets that needle back to its resting place, and it has a little tab on the end. Now, I've actually put on some extra weight. I had some issues with it skipping quite a bit when I first did it. So I've added just a little rubber foot right there and a couple of rubber feet on the top here. Actually, those are made out of cork, but they're self-adhesive cork feet. So I got 2 of those on the top, and I got 1 of the plastic ones on the bottom, and that seemed to be enough to make it happy as far as tracking goes. So again, this is not a record shredder. I'm sure all of you who are watching are like, oh, did you weigh that tone arm to make sure it's not too heavy? No, I didn't, and I doubt the people who created it did the same thing. But in any case, this was really cool. It was a fun project. Look at this. This record doesn't even have anything on the second side. It's just like, you know, pure grooves. This record here is the Home Comfort Story. In go dust, smoke, and pollen, and out comes clean air house wide. The Honeywell Electronic Air Cleaner, 33 1/3. So again, I'm limited to playing only 7-inch records on it that are 33 1/3 or 45 size, but played at 33 1/3. But a lot of the old story books that came out for this, like the story of Star Wars or even this Masters of the Universe record here, is a 7-inch recorded at 33 1/3. There's a lot of them that were 45s as well, but I guess I won't be able to go through those. But I can listen to my Masters of the Universe one here. Here, I'll play you just a clip of it, just because the copyright police will probably come after me and put me in jail. But let's see, turn on the motor, amplifier's on, drop the tone arm, drop the lid, and here we go.
Hello, friends. I am He-Man, and I want you to read along as we listen to the adventures of the Masters of the Universe. Get ready for a lot of fun and excitement. Now, let's start.
Ooh, yeah.
Hidden deep within his mountain lair, Skeletor his newest plot cannot fail. He has planned for everything. Everything, that is, except the power of Point Dread.
This particular record, I think, has a smaller groove size than the other one, so this is one of them. This is one of the records I had difficulty playing when I was testing it out. So it may have micro grooves in it, but whatever it is, it's a little bit too fine point for this particular stylus that I have in here. So anyway, this was kind of a fun thing, and you could do the same thing. Just go out to eBay, buy you one of these Mickey Mouse record players, and remove the original motor stuff in there. Get the motor and controller unit out of a Crosley turntable, and this is just two-side adhesive to the bottom right there, and then two-side adhesive a little 9-volt battery right there, and then a power switch. Wire it all up, and you have two separate systems going on here at once that work in harmony together to play back some old records off this little cheesy tinny speaker on the inside. I hope you guys enjoyed this fun project. Again, subscribe to the channel, share this video with some friends. You can follow me on my social medias. I am on Twitter, rarely. I'm on Facebook, mostly. And then I do have some wonderful Patreon patrons who have supported me over the years very generously, and you'll find their names in the description below. So, I am going to let you go for now, and we'll see you next time.